So if you were to bring the black share of wealth at least to the black share of the population, it would require an additional at least $10 trillion.
But if we were paid those unskilled wages at a 6% interest rate, we would have $6.2 quadrillion that we would be owed today.
Reparations is the key. The story, have black folks come and talk about what kind of hell they live and have people have to listen. Reparations will set us free.
Long Beach family mourning after 15-year-old family member killed trying to buy cell phone off online marketplace. A 15-year-old boy was fatally shot on Friday evening when he arranged to meet with the seller of a cell phone through an online mobile marketplace. The shooting took place just before 9:30 p.m. in the 1000 block of Via Wanda, where the boy and the seller had planned to meet to complete the transaction. When Long Beach Police Department officers arrived, they found the 15-year-old boy suffering from multiple gunshot wounds to the upper body. Authorities identified him Saturday morning as Joshua Simmons. He was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect has been identified as 24-year-old Los Angeles resident Jose Bustamante Cardenas. He was booked on one count of murder and was being held for $2 million bail. Ashe, young man.
Ashe. Ethiopians queue at Russian embassy to enlist for war. Dozens of young Ethiopian men continue to gather at the Russian embassy in the capital, Addis Ababa, on Tuesday following rumors of soldiers being recruited to fight in the war in Ukraine. But the embassy spokeswoman, Maria Chernukina, said no recruitment was being carried out in Ethiopia. She said the crowd was showing solidarity with Russia. "We have a lot of visitors to the embassy in order to express support for Russia," she told the BBC. "Some of them are telling us they are willing to help in any way they can, but we are not a recruitment agency," Ms. Chernukina said, or added. Many of the Ethiopians at the embassy were seen carrying their personal documents. A young man waiting at the entrance told the BBC that he's looking for a good salary as a soldier or to be hired in another job available. "I also like Russia," he said. Others said they had heard rumors of high wages in Russia. Ethiopia was among countries that missed a UN session to vote on a resolution on the Russian invasion in Ukraine. Some 17 African countries, including South Africa, abstained from the vote.
So going to fight for Russia, huh? Wouldn't be me. U.S. lets Ukrainians fleeing war into United States from Mexico. Note, article is a month old. Tijuana, Mexico, March 16. Reuters, at the U.S. border with Mexico, American officials are allowing Ukrainians fleeing the Russian invasion of their homeland to enter the United States and stay without fear of deportation for a year, according to People Crossing. Several Ukrainians told Reuters they passed through the checkpoint in the northern Mexico city of Tijuana this week and were granted permission to remain in the country until 2023. More than 3 million Ukrainians have fled the fighting, according to the United Nations, with the majority finding refuge in neighboring countries. At least 310 have reached Tijuana by air this month, said Jesus Rios Uribe, the Mexican government's delegate for Baja California state. The U.S.-Mexico border has been closed for most asylum seekers under the pandemic-era policy known as Title 42, but Ukrainians describe moving to the front of the line of migrants waiting to make their claims to border officials. A group of Democratic lawmakers urged U.S. President Joe Biden this month to increase refugee admissions and allow Ukrainians with family members in the United States to enter faster than humanitarian parole. So they really want to usher them in here, and quick, it sounds like.
Yeah, very amazing when you have, you know, our homeless population, especially here in California. It's really bad.
Yeah, and rising.
You know, and rising. Yep. Divided Supreme Court denies appeal over race death penalty. The U.S. Supreme Court rejected a black death row inmate's appeal despite one of his Texas jurors believing non-whites are more dangerous than whites. In the latest 6-3 capital punishment split, the 3 Democratic appointees said in dissent on Monday that the court should have sent the case back to Texas for, quote, proper consideration, end quote, of the issue that wasn't considered on the merits. The Court of Criminal Appeals of Texas denied the defendant any meaningful review of his federal constitutional claim. Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote, joined by Justices Stephen Breyer and Elena Kagan. The denial underscores the difficulties capital defendants face at the High Court, dominated by Republican appointees. In 2018, Christopher Love was convicted of killing Kendra Hatcher in a 2015 murder for hire plot. One of the jurors who voted to sentence Love to death said during jury selection that he believed non-whites are more violent than whites. In deciding whether to vote for death, Texas jurors consider whether defendants will be violent in the future. During jury selection, each side is given a limited number of peremptory strikes, but a judge can also strike a juror for cause. The trial judge denied Love's attempt to strike the juror for cause. The Texas Appeals Court said any error was harmless because Love was given 2 extra peremptory strikes earlier in jury selection, which he used before the juror at issue was questioned. Quote, an already expended peremptory strike is no cure for the seating of an allegedly biased juror, quote, end quote, Sotomayor said. Sotomayor wrote, calling the state ruling plainly erroneous. Racial bias infecting a capital case deprives the defendant of his right to an impartial tribunal in a life or death context and poisons public confidence in the judicial process, Sotomayor wrote. The seating of a racially biased juror, therefore, can never be harmless.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a direct bias against the defendant.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what the Honorable Ketanji Jackson would have to say about this.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see that as well. All right, so we have a tweet here from attorney Ben Crump. Recent tweet, Syracuse, New York, police officers detained an 8-year-old for allegedly stealing a bag of Doritos. Rather than talking to him and handling this incident in a different way, officers chose to escalate this incident and detain an obviously terrified young boy. How traumatizing is this? So let's take a look for ourselves to see how this young boy was handled.
What is y'all doing? What is y'all doing?
Guess. Take a guess what I'm doing.
Hey, you're like a baby to me. Why you?
Guess what I'm doing.
I don't know what you doing. I just see you snatching him off the.
No.
So what? So what's going on then?
You're stealing stuff. If you break into your house to steal something.
Nah, man. What you selling, a bag of chips? So y'all treat me like a whole cold-blooded.
Keep walking, dude. You don't even know what you're
Keep walking. I know what I just came up and see. I know the just came up and see.
Okay, what did you see?
I see y'all snatching him off the bike like you're a ass man.
Wasn't him.
Ain't he saying it wasn't him? What y'all doing?
Crazy. How old is he? 10?
What y'all talking about, man?
That's against the law.
What doing?
Just a kid.
I mean, so good thing, I guess the cameras are rolling, that we have an adult around to speak up for the young man. Yeah, it just seemed very extreme, the way that he was being handled. So, 8-year-old baby.
All right, so over the weekend, 4 major shootings in the U.S. Happened during this Easter weekend. At least 4 major shootings broke out across the United States over the Easter weekend, including one at a party in Pittsburgh that left 2 teenagers dead and several others injured early Sunday. The violence comes after President Joe Biden announced tougher gun regulations last week in the wake of multiple mass shootings. Pittsburgh police said in a statement Sunday that officers were called to the reports of a shooting just after 12:30 a.m. at an Airbnb rental property. When they arrived, additional shots were heard in the immediate area, and several young people were seen fleeing the area on foot and in vehicles. 1 dead, 3 minors injured in Portland shooting. A shooting in Portland, Oregon on Sunday left 1 person dead and 3 minors injured, according to the Portland Police Bureau. The Bureau said in a statement that police had been called to reports of a shooting just after 8:40 p.m. local time. When they arrived, they found 1 man dead and 3 boys with gunshot wounds. And also in South Carolina, a gunfire broke out at a nightclub in Hampton County on Sunday, a day after gunfire erupted at a mall in the state's capital, Columbia, around 90 miles north. At least 9 people were injured in the shooting at Kara's Lounge in Hampton County. South Carolina State Law Enforcement Division told the Associated Press. It came after at least 9 people sustained gunshot wounds in the shooting at the Columbia Center in the capital Saturday, with victims ages ranging from 15 to 73, according to the Columbia Police Department. And there's an estimated 146 mass shootings currently in 2022.
Wow, that's just tragic. And that's an alarmingly high number for 2022. We're what, in the 4th month right now?
Yeah, it's just interesting how the media highlights or has highlighted within the past 2 weeks, and I'm specifically talking about the national media, has decided to cover certain topics kind of around, I guess, when President Joe Biden started talking about tougher gun regulations. So just kind of, interesting, the coincidence, right?
Yeah.
Because,
you can definitely see it coming. Stricter gun laws, possibly another crime bill headed our way, so we'll just have to keep an eye on it.
Yep.
All right, get back on the boat. Racists target Black sororities and fraternities. Students at Arkansas State University are hiding behind an anonymous act to post racially fueled attacks towards Black sororities and fraternities at the school. As the National Pan-Hellenic Council, NPHC, Black Greek organizers were celebrating Greek Week at Arkansas State University, students took to the social media app Yik Yak to mock Black students strolling on campus. The anonymous post called for Black Greeks to get back on the boat and declared that Black is a disease, according to a statement released by university's NPHC chapter Instagram. Kenyon Atkins, Arkansas State's NPHC president, continued in a statement, "Not only is it shameful and discouraging to see our peers using an anonymous app to shame and belittle us, but it is also a mockery of our traditions and history behind our organizations." Atkins added, "For so long, minority students have been unable to feel comfortable on their college campuses, and this is a prime example. As a student body, we are to exemplify unity and understanding for every student, no matter their race or ethnic background." Following the release of the anonymous post, students in a moving car reportedly shouted "White Power" at Orion Husley, a junior at Arkansas State who was being interviewed about the ongoing situation.
Wow. Whew. Whew. Brothers and sisters in our fellow sororities and fraternities.
In Arkansas. Yeah. So.
Arkansas. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I mean, especially when you have sororities that in fraternities, it's based on Greek, right? Which is basically European. And you would think that black people who are involved in something that's, you know, essentially Greek, quote unquote European, would be more inclusive, but obviously not.
Right.
In this case.
Yeah, not in this case. And what boat are they referring to? Are they talking about the slave boat or the cruise ship? The slave ship or the cruise ship? I guess we have to ask, was it Sawyer? Assemblymember Sawyer? Which boat they need to get back on there? It's all the same.
Word.
All right, let's move on.
Let's do it. Kimberly Guilfoyle meets with January 6th committee. Kimberly Guilfoyle, the fiance of former President Donald Trump's eldest son, met with a House committee investigating a U.S. Capitol insurrection Monday, more than a month after she abruptly ended a voluntary interview with lawmakers, according to a person familiar with the matter. Guilfoyle, 53, arrived Monday morning at the federal office building on Capitol Hill, where the committee has been conducting its virtual and in-person interviews to sit down with lawmakers, according to the person who spoke to the Associated Press on the conditions of anonymity to discuss private testimony. The committee investigating the attack had requested testimony and records from Guilfoyle, who spoke at the rally Trump held on the White House ellipse on January 6, 2021, before the riot at the Capitol aimed at overturning Trump's election loss. Lawmakers say that Guilfoyle, who was a chair of the Trump Victory Committee, the fundraising arm of his campaign, also raised funds for the rally and was in direct contact with its key participants and organizers. Members of the 9-member panel issued a subpoena to Guilfoyle last month after she cut the voluntary interview short over her objection to the presence of lawmakers. The committee's decision to subpoena her was unusual, as lawmakers have tried to bring in most members of Trump's family on a voluntary basis. Ms. Guilfoyle met with Donald Trump inside the White House, spoke at the rally that took place before the riot on January 6th, and apparently played a key role organizing and raising funds for the event. Mississippi Representative Benny Thompson, the committee's Democratic chair, said in a March 3rd statement. Guilfoyle's appearance is the latest in a series of sit-down interviews the committee has conducted with those in Trump's inner circle in the past few weeks. On Tuesday, Stephen Miller, who served as a top aide to Trump, was questioned virtually for 8 hours. The former president's daughter, Ivanka Trump, and her husband, Jared Kushner, have also spoken to the committee in the past month, providing hours of testimony that members have cited as helpful to their probe.
Sacramento currently spending $44 million on growing homeless. City is also increasing garbage collection on residents by double digits. The city of Sacramento is spending more than $44 million to provide 8 homeless shelters and camping options, most not yet built or ready, and 3 Project Home Key motel conversions, according to city officials. Most of that comes from state and federal grants that are not certain year to year. The homeless spending comes on the heels of city residents learning that waste collection services are going up drastically. Let's see, 4% increase in cycling, 4.5% increase for garbage, 20.5% increase in lawn and garden, and 7% increase for street sweeping. Despite the uncertainty of ongoing funding, the city is planning on these various shelters into 2023. We think for 2023, we have pulled together the funds to cover the shelter piece from both the State Homeless Housing Assistance and Prevention HHAP grants, and by redirecting some funds within the Department of Community Response budget. Last month, the Globe reported that Sacramento City Manager Howard Chan warned the City Council that future funding for the city's existing homeless shelters was uncertain, even as the city was pushing to open more large homeless sites to address Sacramento's growing homelessness crisis. So it looks like their plan is to pass along some of this bill to homeowners and services that they provide to residents.
Okay.
Well, it's not actually okay, because some homeowners are struggling too, and, just can't take these extra increases when they say that they're spending it on this homeless problem. But I'm not seeing the homeless problem going away. I'm seeing the homeless problem increase. We're here in Sacramento, so I'm not seeing it being resolved.
Not at all.
All right. Also in Sacramento,
just like everything else these days, rent prices have skyrocketed. Data from rent.com shows that renters in the Sacramento area are paying 18% more for a 3-bedroom unit compared to this time last year. Brian Cranberry, managing editor for rent.com, sat down with KCRA3 on Monday to talk more about this trend, and we should have that video link somewhere in the description for this article, so you can check that out.
Yeah, you can go ahead and take a look at that. What they were talking about in the interview, I did look at it briefly, is that though the 18% increase in Sacramento is, pretty high, that it could be worse. They say places like Austin, Texas are seeing 50% increases, and that we should be thanking our lucky stars. Then they also talked about, the cheapest places to rent in Sacramento. Of course, they mentioned neighborhoods like North Oak Park and the Elmhurst neighborhood, which are traditionally Black neighborhoods. So it looks like they are, the gentrification will continue.
Yep.
All right, let's see what we have here. We just had the first in-person task force meeting in San Francisco last week at Third Baptist Church. Let's see some of the stuff that was discussed. California Reparations Task Force is working to repair communication strategy. And this is an article written by fellow journalist Antonio Ray Harvey, also here in Sacramento, covering the Task Force for California Black Media, CBM. Senator Stephen Bradford summed up what he viewed as a reason for low turnout and public engagement at the 9th meeting of the California Task Force to study and develop reparation proposals for African Americans. Rudimentary basic communications of alerting the community about meetings must be mandatory. That's the part where we failed. We have a great story to tell, but we're not telling it, Bradford said at the April 14th during the second session of the 2-day meeting. Frankly, I thought we'd have a standing room only these 2 days. I thought everybody in California wanted to be here. I think we missed the mark in promoting the first in-person meeting. That's where the frustration is and where it is with me. Held at Third Baptist Church in San Francisco, located in the city's historic Fillmore district, the first in-person meeting since the task force convened in June 2021 was hosted by Reverend Amos Brown, who is vice chair of the task force.
Yeah, even the mass media group was in the building. We actually covered the 2-day meeting.
Somebody's got to, man. Somebody's got to.
Yeah, the first and historic meeting with the task force, and I also thought there could have been more people there. I was actually expecting that it was going to be even possibly standing room only, but yeah,
I mean, several of the commenters, several of the commenters, people who went up to speak on this communications issue say that, the only place that they're getting their news about this is the, grassroots. That's ETM Media, CJEC, and the people that are kind of promoting it on social media. But there really has not been a lot or any national press about this, unless it's the people at the grassroots, making the rounds. So we're almost a year into these task force hearings now, and there is no communications budget that's been released to cover this process. I mean, it really is a missed opportunity.
And also, I want to give a shout out to KQED. They did have people from their company come out and cover both day 1 and day 2. So shout out to them for, covering this task force meeting.
Right. It was great that they were there to cover, but leading up to the meeting, we also need heavy coverage to, inform the people that these meetings are happening, and letting them know that these are open to the public, and this is a chance in history to come out and share your story.
Yep.
All right. Well, ETM Media will continue to be on the scene. So swing by our YouTube channel, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So speaking of California reparations, it looks like an article was written on CJEC, Coalition for Just and Equitable California, at Moguldom. In late March, California's first in-the-nation reparations task force decided to limit eligibility for reparations for slavery to people who can trace their lineage to free and enslaved Black people living in the U.S. during the 19th century. The task force committee, convened in 2020 through legislation signed by Governor Gavin Newsom, voted 5-4 in favor of limiting compensation to direct descendants. On April 13th and 14th, members of the California Reparations Task Force convened in a historic African-American church in San Francisco. One of the groups in attendance that participated in the task force hearings was the reparation advocacy group, Coalition for a Just and Equitable California, CJEC. CJEC members include the California Black Lineage Society, National Assembly of American Slavery Descendants, Los Angeles, and American Redress Coalition of California Advocacy. Everybody in here is a part of history, said Chris Lodgson of CJEC in an ABC 10 interview before the meeting. I couldn't be more excited and blessed, really, to be here. According to the CJEC fact sheet, 80 to 90% of Black Americans will be eligible for reparations under the task force lineage-based reparations decision. Other points on the fact sheet include: the task force will make reparations proposals soon, which can include money to make tracing lineage/ancestry cost-free. Depending on what types of records are required, many will not have trouble tracing their lineage ancestry. For those who have trouble tracing their lineage ancestry, extra support will likely be provided for them. The task force can hire genealogists to do the paperwork for you, make tracing lineage free by proposing money for lineage tracing, and create a state agency or partner with Black-owned genealogy association to manage the process. The meeting in San Francisco included testimony from experts in education and discussion on how the institution of slavery continues to be felt in California, including the form of disparities in household income, health, employment, and incarceration. So yeah, speaking of incarceration, check out our interview with Samuel Brown. Brother's doing some great work with ACA 3 and that movement to reverse or to actually get rid of involuntary servitude that's currently in the California Constitution.
Yeah, check that out. Now available at ETM Media YouTube. And yeah, cut the CJEC, cut the check.
Absolutely.
All right. DeMarcus Cousins says Kings should absolutely retire number 15. And this is an article written by Sacktown Royalty, it looks like, here in Sacramento. Again, they put out a tweet. The tweet had a little bit stronger title. It said, DeMarcus Cousins wants the Kings to retire his number 15 jersey. He's the best player to ever come through Sac. All right. There was no love lost between DeMarcus Cousins and the King is also what the subtitle of this article says. The Sacramento Kings have had a number of talented players suit up for them over the years, but only 10 of them have had their jersey numbers hanging from the rafters of Golden One Center. The 11th, number 6, is for the sixth man, which is the fans. DeMarcus Cousins sounded pretty confident that he'd be the 11th player before he was traded to the New Orleans Pelicans in 2017, and he still feels that way, as he told Mark J. Spears in an interview with Anscape. You averaged 21.1 points and 10.8 rebounds in 7 seasons with Sacramento after they drafted you with the 5th overall pick in the 2010 NBA draft. Would you want to see your number 15 jersey retired there? To which he responds, I put the time and work in. I hold many records there. I honestly think I'm the best player to ever come through Sacramento, and I stand on that. Absolutely. Statistically speaking, Cousins is absolutely right. Some of the numbers he put up during his time in Sacramento won't be touched for a long, long time. And had he not been traded or suffered career-altering injuries, he'd probably be higher on a lot of teams' all-time leaderboards. Now, Cousins, was a solid player, but I have to disagree with him on that. I think Chris Webber was the best player to come through SAC. We actually made the playoffs in 2022 when we had that dream team going. So Cousins, I don't know if I could stand by that, but I do wish him the best of luck.
Good luck, bro. All right, so let's go to the next article. So I know a lot of the articles that we have, because it's the news, may not be all that positive, but there is something positive that we're going to end on. Okay, Black registered nurse creates an app to empower Black women during perinatal stages. Leo George, a Black registered nurse, has worked tirelessly to address a systemic issue that has resulted in a gap in the healthcare experiences of Black versus white moms. She developed an app to help women not only appreciate the joy of pregnancy, but also to improve maternal outcomes for both moms and their babies. George, who was born and raised in the Washington, D.C. region, noted the disparities in treatment and care between Black and white moms. According to Johnson & Johnson, the inequalities she noticed encouraged her to delve deeper into the nationwide maternal health issue that Black women are facing. Most importantly, George wanted to make sure that she had a safe and peaceful birthing experience. She didn't want to become a statistic for Black women's much higher rates of maternal and newborn mortality. Speaking to Essence, she stated, I was able to find the OB that I wanted who was okay with the kind of things that I wanted. I would go to prenatal yoga on Thursdays. I just really created my journey because I wanted to be special. I found the doula that I wanted. I created a package for myself, she added. George, now the mother of a healthy 4-year-old, understood that her unique childbirth experience isn't shared by many Black mothers. She became determined to create a space where moms could take control of their lives without having to accept substandard care or discrimination in the healthcare system. That's how I ended up with Wolomi and really wanted to bring the joy back in our birthing experience, she explained. Wolomi is from a Yoruba word from Nigeria When you greet a mom, it's an older Yoruba word meaning happy, dipping hands in water. It's the community aspect of things, just the idea that this thing, the birthing process, our birth journey, is a happy thing. Unfortunately, it's turning into this scary thing. It's interesting. In this article, we actually, if you go to our subpoena power shows that we have, we actually do mention the doula, and I can't remember what they're called. You remember what they're called? The doula?
Midwives?
Midwives, thanks. And so we actually did mention that in terms of possibly getting data and statistics through the subpoena process. And also, I think just in terms of general proposals for reparations, I think this would be something good, you know, for Black women.
Yeah, make the birthing experience more positive. I think that this is a good thing.
Yep. Are we done, or do we have?
I think so. I think that's it for in the news. So yeah, I guess we'll just go ahead and wrap it up. That's
All right.
in the news.